we are going to start off, before we get into it, with some quick introductions. So if y'all could just take a quick second and introduce yourself. And I also want to give a quick shout out to SheFi for having us. It's amazing to be here. Yeah, awesome. Love seeing so many people into this topic, so let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren from Developer Experience Team at Consensus. I have been in software development for about 5 years now in data. So that's a little bit of my background. On to you.
I'm Nitya, the founder of Capsule. Before Capsule, I was working on an L1, building wallets, developer infrastructure, and everything in between.
I'm Crystal. I'm the Director of Community at Consensus, and I've been in crypto since 2017. And yeah, let's kick this off. So we're going to get spicy from the very beginning. Nitya, when you onboard Web 2 users, artists, creators, etc., into Web 3 and walk them through using a wallet, what's the biggest challenge or pain point you see in the process?
Yeah, I think in some ways the fact that we're still talking a lot about onboarding in the space just speaks to the fact that we haven't really gotten people to that next step, which is transacting on chain and actually taking meaningful actions. So much of like what people want to do on chain comes from some kind of desire for action, some mechanism for wanting to do something, and getting people to that step is frictionful in a way that is just so foundationally different from Web 2, where in Web 2 I see a button that I want to click to do something, I click the button, something happens. And until we get to that point in the space, I think we're just facing wall after wall of friction. I think that's foundationally holding us back.
Yeah, I completely agree. The reason that we don't talk about onboarding in Web 2 is because it's easy. So the fact that it's still a conversation says that we still have work to do. But to answer the question frankly, the whole process is challenging from the very beginning with the seed phrase and the fear of the technical complexities all the way to the very end when you're just trying to figure everything out and get through the process. So yeah.
So on that note, then what are opportunities for improving that process? Like when somebody tells you, you watch them struggle, how can you then put that into the product you're building?
Yeah, I think it starts with education, right? So by being able to remove some of the fuzziness around the jargon that we use and the very crypto specific language, we'll be able to open the doors for more people to enter and not feel, scared. So that's definitely the first step.
Yeah, building on that, I think it's really interesting that in our space, and even with some of the talks earlier, we think so much about composability and having interoperability across lots of different applications and allowing multiple clients on a single ecosystem. And this is something that every kind of protocol builder is really focused on. But then when we get up to the actual writing layer and actually putting transactions on chain, we lose a lot of that. And so I think what it's really going to take is for people to actually be able to experience the benefits of using composable products at the app layer. And what that will really take, and at least the way that we think about it with Capsule, is instead of building another wallet application, how do we build the ability to transact from anywhere and actually meet people where their intentions to do something are?
So let's get a little deeper into that. Tell us about your wallet stack and why you chose that approach.
Yeah, I think kind of going off of the previous point, I think there's been a lot of kind of excitement in the wallet space recently, and I think a lot of that comes from this place of we all know that there needs to be some improvement here, and that we do need to actually bring people from wanting to do something to being able to actually be on chain. And the way that at least we've seen this play out is that building a wallet's really, really hard. And there's about 20 different things that go into making a really great wallet. And what we've seen is that we have a lot of really great teams that are building all 20 of these things. So that might be something like indexing infrastructure, or having transaction feeds, or having like seed phrase management. But in order to actually turn that into something where we can really build amazing individual layers that turn into great products, I think there's more of a need to actually specialize in these areas. And so on our end, building signing infrastructure and then allowing everyone to plug into that is the way that, that we've approached it. And then the way that we're doing that is we went with an MPC or multi-party computation style stack.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's completely this idea of doing too much, right? Like Coinbase just announced messaging, and that's great, that's awesome, but why? Who really needs messaging in their wallet? Nobody. So if we dial back, we focus on what needs to be done. I mean, the core functionality needs to be seamless before we branch out into all of these other extravagant features. Then we can start to move. But yeah, I mean, there is too much. So spicy, we do.
We also get into vulnerabilities. When you start adding all these things into a wallet, you really have to have a conversation about the security of the wallet, because putting those extra additions on there that aren't necessary. So that makes me so nervous. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Going back to that, I think with this emergence of lots of different wallets, I think we're also training consumers to do things that none of us in this room would do, which is like putting your seed phrase in every single wallet. Like, that's just not a great security practice. And so the more that we can actually start to think about like what is the true model between all of these different parts of crypto, and how do they all fit together in ways that'll allow people to choose safe defaults.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think we can also dovetail into the conversation about education based on what you just said, because if we don't educate the user properly, they're going to continue to do things like that that are not best practices. So let's talk about, instead of onboarding, let's talk about education. Like Learn MetaMask coming out allowed me to take artists and creators who don't understand my language, and I try to make it as simple as possible. But I could send them that one link, and then they could come to me and say, I already got my wallet, I understand it now, I have a big picture, what's next?
How many conversations have we had? How do we onboard the next billion to Web3? The question that we need to be asking is, why are they coming to Web3? And it's not to transfer funds all the time. It's not to be a trader. It's to interact with the community, to participate in a DAO, to engage. And you know, the setup we have, UX and otherwise, it's for those individuals. And so that's also a shift that needs to be made. But you know, starting with education and making sure that when they come in, no matter what the intention is, they're aware of the security, they're aware of the underlying technology that all of this stuff is built on, and so they know how to use and not use it.
Yeah, I was going to say, building on that notion, and the wallet in particular is something that has just kind of evolved over time from a place where the thing we did in crypto was transfer some Bitcoin from me to you. And the way that that has evolved is now we have this like rich ecosystem of possibilities that maybe people don't even know about. Like discoverability is another question that I think like even warrants its own discussion. But the more that we can evolve the interfaces that we're using and educate people in how to use them.
That dovetails perfectly into next topic, which is, this might be spicy, it might not, depends on where you'll take it. Besides the wallets you both represent professionally, who do you think has one of the best wallet UIs and why?
I will take a spicy take on this one. I don't think it exists yet. To be quite frank, it just isn't here. You know, there are a lot of contenders, there are a lot of options to answer that question, but the best is yet to come.
Yeah, I think like there's also at this point in where crypto's at in adoption, people talk a lot about like, should we be building more consumer applications or more infrastructure? And this is kind of this like circular, like kind of cyclic conversation that we always have. And I think so much of it comes down to the fact that there isn't enough context-aware infrastructure being built. Like there's a lot of very general purpose infra, and then a lot of consumer apps. And then what we're finding is that consumer applications don't have the right infrastructure. And so I think there's a lot of need around actually bringing those two things together.
Yeah, and especially from the developer's perspective, right? Like you look at all the tools and all the infrastructure options, and there is so much out there now, but does any of it do all of what it's supposed to? No. Oftentimes you need to look to multiple different platforms to do multiple things when the solution could be just bundled up into one. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, right?
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, I have multiple wallet apps on my phone so that I can access different functionality depending on where I'm at. And that's something that I would love to see this conversation evolve. This is new technology. It's emerging. So the more we have these conversations and find out, like Nitya, when you're on the ground and you're trying to get people to use these devices, what is the direct feedback? Like when you have somebody get stuck, what do they say? What's the first thing they say?
I think this is interesting because it's been almost the benchmark for me of when I'll know that we've done what we set out to, where if we can onboard someone without apologizing at any point, that's the benchmark for me. It's I want to be able to set up someone with, maybe it's a wallet, maybe it's just an application, and there isn't necessarily a separate wallet they have to download, but there is no oh yeah, I know this is confusing, but bear with me, or oh yeah, I'm sorry, this is a little bit weird, but we just need to get rid of all of that. And a lot of that comes back to this paradigm of Web 2, when you want to do something, it's there, and you can just take it and do it, and we are just not there yet.
Feedback in Web3 is so unbelievably important, and it's complicated, right? Because from one developer to the next, their needs, their dApps, what they're building is so drastically different that they're using the same offering, but they're using it in different ways, and they're getting different results. And so the feedback varies, but all of it goes in to the way a product evolves over time. So we definitely need it in worlds and worlds of ways that Web 2 has never even seen.
And we're also getting to a conversation about narrative. Like, Nitya, what you were just saying, when I have to apologize for something, that's a narrative that I then have to figure out for the next person. How do I solve that conversation so I don't have to apologize, and I'm just, it is a narrative thing as well. And I'd love to talk about some narratives.
Yeah, and it is a domino effect, and I hate to be the guy that brings up FTX, but look at non-crypto people. I know I had to, but listen. Non-crypto people, they use that and they glue it into their brain, and they're just this is dangerous. And that narrative grows and grows and grows until it's unmanageable. And then we are now responsible to do the damage control and to go and say, hey, bad actors don't make bad technology, but the work is just exceeding our capacity at this point.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, nothing to add.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And you almost have to scrub sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, and you're talking about narrative, you sometimes have to scrub Web3, crypto, all of that language out and just say emerging technology. So you don't immediately off-put them before they've had a chance to use your tech and use your wallet and then be onboarded. So yeah. And along those lines, we're gonna, there we go. We're gonna, how are we on time? Are we on time? Oh, nice. All right, let me talk fast. We're going to wrap it up with public goods, because that's my happy place. So, yeah, yesterday someone had a beta of a wallet. It's called citizenwallet.xyz. And it was just a beta. It was just an experiment. And it basically was a wallet for a community. And the onboarding experience took 15 seconds. So we created a burner wallet. Somebody sent me 20 cents. I sent her 20 cents. Done and done. We did not have to have a narrative. We did not have an explanation. And that, I believe, is the evolution. It's still extremely new, and it's not functional yet. But that, I think, is one of the visions that we could take this to.
Yeah, completely agree. Projects like this are the goal. I mean, how many of you have ever been able to get a MetaMask transaction to go through from downloading the app to sending in less than 30 seconds? Zero. I mean, it's unheard of. So we're trying to progress in a way that takes out the steps and takes out the different pieces so that you can just do it. I love that project. Super cool.
Exactly, couldn't agree more. It's how do we get to these sensible defaults for where, our thesis is basically, there's no need to go download a separate wallet. Maybe there's something else that you want to use that wallet application for down the road, but why don't we just get people at the point where they want to do something, and then the wallet's there for them, or the transacting infrastructure is there for them. And so, similarly, how do we build these kind of open interfaces that just support people where they're at?
Brilliant. Thank you both for your spicy takes. Love it. Thank you all.